Good morning, runners. Dr. Jeff here, physical therapist and running specialist. Welcome back to our brand new Run Live Well running channel, where we help runners run faster and better. This week, we are going to talk about the leg swing, and specifically hip mobility. This is the most important area of the body that I address when working with runners. It allows you to take advantage of the great arm swing that we worked on last week. In order to take advantage of this, we need good hip mobility. Without hip extension, mobility, and flexibility, you're setting yourself up for poor running mechanics and decreased performance. You won't be able to run fast. The only way you'll be able to get a long stride is if you overstride, and that sets you up for all kinds of injuries. Working with thousands of runners over the years, I've noticed a real epidemic of what I call short hip flexor syndrome. I think it's mainly because we spend so much of our day in keyboard posture, whether it's sitting, typing away at our desk, or sleeping. We have our hips flexed for usually more than 22 hours a day. With just 30 seconds a day, you can improve your stride and your speed. This simple stretch is particularly effective. So with the super stride stretch, with just 30 seconds a day, if you do it for a month, you will see improvements in your stride length, which will result in better running mechanics, or it can, and it will also possibly help you run faster. If you have a little bit more time than 30 seconds a day, I will show you a bunch of other hip mobility and flexibility techniques to help to improve your stride further. So if you would like to try some of these stretches with us, you might want to grab a yoga mat, a dowel, a stretching strap, a foam roller, and a Bosu ball or a bench. I would just like to take a moment to thank you for tuning in to Run Live Well, our new running channel. I hope some of the information that we've been bringing you over the last couple of weeks has been informative, useful, and I hope it helps you run faster. If you could take a moment and smash that like and subscribe, it will help us continue to bring you new useful information every week. So come with me down to the track and we will try a number of these stretches and hip mobility techniques. So I've got my buddy Bart here to demonstrate what can happen if the hip flexors are too tight. In general, what happens is it will restrict your hip extension, the ability to come backwards with the femur in the sagittal plane. So if you come to an end range here because the anterior muscles are too tight, there's two main compensations that I see. Number one is increased lumbar extension, where you arch your back more. That will in effect give you a little bit more stride out the back, but at the cost of loading the facet joints here and possibly contributing to low back pain down the road. The other very common compensation that I notice is rotation of the pelvis. If we're limited in extension and we can rotate the pelvis a little bit more, what that does with his right femur here is gives in effect a little bit more backward motion. At the cost, however, of rotating the pelvis forwards on this side, and this brings the foot often across midline or contributes to a narrow gait or the crossover gait, both of which can contribute to lateral hip pain, knee pain, IT band syndrome, overpronation, and a whole other host of common running injuries. So because most elite runners have a pretty similar cadence, distance runners 180 to 190 steps per minute, let's just consider it a constant. So running speed equals stride length times cadence. So really, speed is directly proportional to stride length. So if we want to keep running faster, especially as we get older, the research shows that we tend to lose 1% of our stride length every year after age 40. And most of this is because of hip flexor tightness. Our hip flexors and hips tighten up over the years. So if we can increase this angle here, this is referred to the hip angle, the maximum angle between both femurs, this can help with allowing us to run faster as we age. So I do not just indiscriminately, randomly give runners hip flexor stretches. First, I do a test with the dowel to see if their hip flexors are tight. So what Giselle is doing here is putting a dowel in the center of her back. She is holding it vertical. She kneels down into a lunge position, so her hips are really at a 90-degree angle. Her femurs are at a 90-degree angle. In this position, if she feels tightness, her stride is not going to be optimal. For the second part of the task, she tucks her tail in between her legs, she flattens out her back, she does a posterior pelvic tilt. And if she feels tightness in the front of her thigh, she could benefit from some hip flexor stretching. And like most of us masters runners, she does have some tightness in her hip flexors. Let's see what we can do to help her. This first dynamic stretch that Giselle is doing is called a hip opener. It's a great exercise for warming up. We do dynamic stretching before running. It has two main purposes. It stretches the muscle back and forth, sort of like bending a coat hanger back and forth. It warms up the tissue, so particularly useful before a run first thing in the morning. The second thing it does is it lubricates your hip. Synovial joints, such as the hip, are lined by synovium. When we stretch synovium, it releases synovial fluid, which is 5 times as slippery as Quaker State oil. So we are lubing our joints first thing in the morning with our dynamic stretches. Motion is lotion. Another great dynamic stretch, if you don't mind getting down on the ground, is the scorpion stretch. So Giselle bends her knee. This stretches the rectus femoris and the trunk, and she works back and forth just like the hip opener stretch. There are lots of other good dynamic stretches to do, but for the purposes of this video, we are just focusing on the hip flexors. I am going to show you one exercise that can help most runners run faster, and if you're already fast, it will help you stay fast. Most fast distance runners have a cadence close to 180 steps per minute. Therefore, the speed of these runners is directly proportional to their stride length. A common finding in runners and in humans in general is hip flexor tightness. This reduces your hip angle. The super stride stretch is designed to help improve your stride and maintain it. It stretches all 3 parts of the hip flexors. Most other hip flexors stretches only address 1 or 2 parts of the muscle group. These 3 steps need to be performed in order. Step 1, put your knee on a bench or a Bosu ball, put a strap around your toes, and weight bear through the involved side. This stretches the iliacus muscle. Step 2, arch your back. This stretches the psoas muscle. Step 3, bend the knee by pulling on the strap with the arms. This stretches the rectus femoris muscle. Hold it for 30 seconds. And step 4, enjoy your new speedy super stride. As the super stride stretch is a static stretch and it can temporarily decrease your muscle power, save it for after your runs when your muscles are already warmed up. Another great mobility tool pre or post run is the foam roller. Giselle is rolling out her quads, her hip flexors. She rolls back and forth for a couple of minutes after her run. She does the rolling with her knee straight and with her knee bent to stretch and self-massage different parts of the muscle. I think of foam rolling as a 3-dimensional stretch. Our muscles are in fascial bundles, and when we increase the pressure inside the compartments, it stretches the fascia in ways that you wouldn't be able to stretch it with a normal static stretch. So in summary, what we've learned today is that hip flexor flexibility and hip mobility is one of the most important aspects of our running mechanics to concentrate on if we want to run faster and more injury-free. So thanks again, runners, for watching another episode of Run Live Well. We hope to see you next week. And if you like this content and material, if you can smash that like and subscribe button, that will help us grow our brand new channel. Thanks again. Have a good run.